Hi, and welcome to my assessment to investigating the unit. First of all, I would like to start with acknowledging the Darug people who are the traditional custodians of this land. I would also like to pay respect to the elders, both past and present, of the Darug Nation and extend that respect to other Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders who are watching my presentation. Reflecting on my learning journey throughout this subject, I can confidently say that it has further assisted me in becoming a proficient teacher. It has provided me with the tools I need to have an active and engaged classroom that accepts and reflects all of my students and their learning needs. In the first few weeks, I was made aware of the injustices to those who have a different coloured skin to me, and the privilege that some of us hold. It was quite confronting reading through the listed items from Macintosh 1989. But as a woman, I can understand to some degree the injustices that are known as accepted in Australia. But as I went through the list and reflected on each item, I didn't think of what if this happens to me? I actually had a deeper empathy when I thought of what if this happened to my children? I can begin to understand the reasons of mistrust that Indigenous Australian parents and carers have for those who hold what they feel is an authority position in their child's life, such as a teacher. I want to be able to throw the authority figure in the bin. Parents are welcome in my classroom at any time, and I wanted it to be reflected in my unit. As Blue Goanna clarifies, having positive relationships with parents and having a mutually beneficial relationship where parents can share their ideas and be a valued member of the community, feel wanted and needed as they so greatly are. 3 times within my unit changes, I have invited parents and or community members to be involved and for them to share their valued knowledge in the classroom. Ockenden 2014 outlines the teacher-student relationship and how it can have a large bearing on effective teaching and learning. Personal warmth, good humour, friendly supportiveness and high expectations are essential to creating and maintaining effective relationships to assist Indigenous students in reaching educational outcomes. The teacher and parents will be working together in educating the students. Generation Media also states that parents want to be more involved in educational choices for their children. As these relationships have been built, the teacher becomes more aware of the lives of her students and is able to reflect that knowledge into the classroom, just as the teacher did in the YouTube clip, being a communicator. This can be done in how the teacher refers to places in the community, how she reads a book to students, how a session may be altered to suit the needs of the class, or responds to something that has happened, and most importantly, making the learning more relevant and enjoyable, which in turn means it's more meaningful. I felt it was highly significant to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land. As Kerry Hollingsworth in the Week 8 lecture states, it's a starting point. I feel it is especially significant as this unit is surrounding the land and the sea, its animals, connections and links. I want the students to be able to establish a unity with the land and know that it is sacred and important. The exact words from Anita Heiss, "It's not rocket science. Brown kids want to see brown kids on the page." This has strongly resonated with me. I have continued to reflect on these words and compare them to myself and my own personal experience growing up. But as a privileged Anglo-Saxon Australian, I have seen reflections of myself throughout everything and every stage of my life. I do remember though having a strong connection with Jerry from the Spice Girls. We both have red hair. As soon as I saw her, I was her. That was me. I could sing, dance. Every time my friends and I played, I was Jerry. It wasn't very common to see redheads in movies, except as the bully, the scared character, or a mean character. In no way is this a great comparison to the identities that are not reflected in most classrooms for Indigenous Australians, but merely an observation from personal experience of how great it was to see a public figure that I thought represented me. And it was depicted in a positive light, and how closely I resonated with her. Through that connection that I felt, as a teacher, I will endeavour to go the extra mile and make a greater effort to ensure my students have the opportunity to make the same connection I did. which is why the choice of the book and the video is reflective of the Indigenous students and their beliefs. In Lesson 2, I have invited an Indigenous community member to come and speak to the class about habitats in the local community. As an important member of the community with an abundance of knowledge to share, this would be an invaluable experience for the students to hear first-hand information. However, the opportunity to invite an Indigenous community member or leader may be limited, so documentation using Indigenous perspectives to your local community or area would be necessary. The local information centre or council can assist schools in finding this information. I have incorporated aspects of Yunkaporta's 8 Ways Learning Framework and the 10 effective teaching and learning strategies for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander languages. Both documents highlight the importance of verbal speaking communication, also referred to as yarning. In all areas of this unit, there are opportunities for discussions and sharing of personal experiences for knowledge. This is also an important part of Indigenous pedagogy. This also presented the opportunity to allow peer-to-peer teaching in a group scenario, as students transform into the teacher and assist their peers in making connections. Their peers may also reach learning outcomes more efficiently by learning from them. In the word wall, where the students and teachers create a wall of new languages or new words, I changed it from just having words to also having representations, images, and Indigenous language. Not only will the identities of the Indigenous students be reflected, but those who are struggling with language and the written word can begin to make connections seeing the images with English and Creole languages combined. In Lesson 6, I have changed the questioning and answering, which was a teacher-led activity, into a fun acting out and mirroring game where the students are able to get up and move their bodies to create a memory formed around movement. Students are acting out the identifiable features of animals and how they survive in their habitats, instead of just listing them out and writing them down. This is also focusing on actions and sounds rather than writing and reading. This was a change made when thinking about Yunkaporta's non-linear teaching method, as the students are still gaining the desired outcomes yet are experiencing it in a curved, not a straight line approach to learning. As Yunkaporta states, learning is not a straight line, but usually needs activities that seem off topic to invoke a richer learning experience. I feel as though the actions and sounds are more memorable and a great way to refer back to the learning when looking back from a future lesson. In regard to the summative assessment, I have suggested that the use of ICT to complete the task is a beneficial option for students. As FLIR 2016 suggests, technology is more likely to be engaging and representative of learning than paper and pen, as it gives the students a greater and more manipulative tools. In my unit changes, I attempted to incorporate a range of Indigenous frameworks, teaching and learning strategies. I will continue to endeavour to adapt my teaching practices to meet the educational needs of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. Thank you for listening.